A simple woman walked into the shooting range, ignored by every man there. She didn't belong. Travis Sullivan sneered as he watched her fumble with the safety equipment. But when she picked up that pistol and took aim, the entire range fell, silent. No one knew what was coming next. The morning sun stretched long shadows across the riverside shooting range, nestled in the rolling hills outside Sacramento. The crisp October air carried the scent of gunpowder and freshly cut grass. Pickup trucks and SUVs filled the gravel parking lot. This wasn't just any Tuesday morning. It was advanced marksmanship class, where serious shooters came to prove their skill. Catherine "Cat" Torres pulled her modest sedan between a lifted Ford and a military-style Jeep, feeling out of place. At 42, she moved with quiet confidence. Her blonde hair was tied back in a practical ponytail. She wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans, nothing fancy, nothing that screamed expert marksman. And that was exactly how she liked it. The outdoor range buzzed with masculine energy. Men in tactical gear crowded the shooting benches, comparing custom rifles and trading stories about their latest hunts and conquests. Their voices carried a mix of competition and camaraderie, fueled by testosterone and shared targets. Well, look what the cat dragged in," came a booming voice from the main group of shooters. Travis "Bullseye" Sullivan stood in the center, as he had for the last 3 years at this range. At 35, he was an imposing figure, 6'2", broad-shouldered, with tattooed arms that told tales of weekend warrior battles. His custom rifle case was worth more than most people's rent, and he made sure everyone knew it. "Didn't know they started beginner classes on Tuesdays," Travis said loudly, so the whole range could hear. A few chuckles spread through his crowd. Kat walked steadily toward the check-in desk, her face calm. She'd heard worse, much worse, in places where the stakes were life and death, not bruised egos. The range officer, a weathered man named Bill who'd seen his share of hotshots come and go, handed her the standard safety waiver without much interest. "First time here?" Bill asked, sounding like he'd rather be dealing with regulars. "Yes, sir," Kat replied simply, signing her name with practiced ease. Behind her, Travis was holding court. "See? Precision shooting," he announced, adjusting his designer shooting glasses. "Isn't just about pulling the trigger. It's about knowing your weapon, reading the wind, calculating distance. It takes years to develop that instinct." His audience nodded, hanging on every word about grip pressure and breath control. Travis had earned their respect by consistently outperforming everyone who stepped up to the line. Kat picked up her rental gear and found an empty spot at the far end of the range, away from the crowd. The range settled into its usual rhythm of controlled chaos, commands echoing, "Range hot, ceasefire, all clear." But beneath the standard safety routines, another story was unfolding. One Kat knew all too well from her past. "Hey, sweetheart," called Marcus, one of Travis's regulars, a stocky man in his late 30s who, Marcus owned a local auto shop and considered himself quite the ladies' man. "You sure you're in the right place? The basic safety course meets on Saturdays," he called out, watching Kat as she methodically set up her equipment and checked the rental pistol assigned to her. It was a standard range weapon, nothing fancy, but reliable. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Kat replied without looking up. That earned a few snickers from the group. Travis swaggered over, his custom .45 caliber pistol gleaming in its holster. Everything about his gear screamed serious money and attitude, from his professional-grade ear protection to his tactical vest packed with unnecessary pouches. "Now, don't get me wrong," Travis said, making sure everyone could hear. "I'm all for women learning to protect themselves. Lord knows in today's world you can't be too careful. But this is advanced marksmanship. We're talking precision shooting at distances that would make a grown man sweat." He gestured toward the targets downrange, some set at 50 yards, others at 75, and a few ambitious ones pushed back to an intimidating 100 yards. Most folks take months just to hit the paper consistently at 25. Kat finished her equipment check and finally looked at Travis. "I appreciate the concern," she said evenly, "but I think I'll manage." That was exactly the wrong thing to say. Travis's expression shifted from amused to something harder. He'd built his reputation as the undisputed king of this range, and any challenge, even a quiet one, didn't sit well with him. "Oh, you'll manage," he repeated, his voice sharp enough to draw his buddy's attention. "Well, ain't that something, boys? We got ourselves a natural here." The group closed in slightly, their casual interest turning to mild hostility. It wasn't outright mean, more like pack behavior, the way groups of men react when their hierarchy feels threatened. Bill, the range officer, stepped out of the equipment building carrying a clipboard. He wore the tired look of someone who had seen this routine too many times before. "All right, everyone, let's get started. Travis, you want to demonstrate the grip technique for our new shooter?" Travis's chest puffed out. "Be my pleasure, Bill." He turned to Kat with exaggerated politeness. "Ma'am, if you'll step over here, I'll show you the fundamentals. See, most people, especially women, try to muscle the gun, but it's all about finesse." Kat watched as Travis moved into his shooting stance, every motion deliberate and showy. He was good. She could see that immediately. His form was textbook perfect, breathing controlled, grip firm. He squeezed off 3 rounds at a 50-yard target, the shots grouping tightly in the center ring. "That's how it's done," Travis announced, stepping back with satisfaction. 15 years of practice right there. Of course, some folks have a natural gift and others. He shrugged meaningfully. "Well, let's just say not everyone's cut out for this kind of thing." The message was clear. "Know your place, lady." Kat nodded thoughtfully, genuinely impressed by the demonstration. "Your turn, sweetheart," Travis said, stepping aside with theatrical gallantry. "Don't worry if you don't hit anything. Happens to the best of us when we're starting out." The group had gathered now, forming a loose semicircle behind the shooting line. What started as casual observation had quickly turned into something more deliberate. A test, an initiation, a chance. To see the newcomer put in her place, Marcus pulled out his phone, clearly hoping to catch something worth sharing later. "Remember," Travis said, his voice taking on the patient tone of an instructor dealing with a slow learner. "Grip it like you mean it, but don't strangle it. Breathe steady, squeeze slow, and for God's sake don't jerk the trigger." Bill handed Kat a magazine loaded with 3 rounds. 50-yard target, he said simply. "Take your time." Kat took the ammunition and moved to the firing line. The rental pistol felt strange in her hands, heavier than what she was used to, with a grip slightly different from her usual gear. She'd grown accustomed to more sophisticated weapons but learned long ago to adapt to whatever tools were available. Behind her, quiet whispers started. $20 says she doesn't hit the target at all," someone muttered. "I'll take that bet," Marcus replied. "She looks like she's got some backbone. Might actually hit the paper." "Paper don't count for much at 50 yards, Travis added. "We're talking scoring rings here. That's where you separate the wheat from the chaff." Kat loaded the magazine, chambered a round, and raised the pistol. She could feel their eyes boring into her back, waiting for the show to begin. Twirdar. Of her, the part that had survived 3 tours and countless impossible situations, wanted to prove exactly what she was capable of. But she'd learned patience in a much harder school than this range would ever be. Her first shot rang. Out across the valley. Through her scope, she saw the bullet had hit the target, not center mass but firmly within the scoring area. A respectable shot for a beginner. Nothing more. "Not bad," Travis called out, his tone carrying mild surprise. "A little high, and to the right, but you're on paper. That's better than most folks do their first time at this distance." Her second shot grouped closer to the center, earning a few grudging nods from the audience. She was performing exactly as expected, competent enough to avoid total embarrassment, but nothing that would threaten anyone's position. "See there?" Travis continued his running commentary. "You're improving already. Of course, it takes most people months to develop any kind of consistency. The real challenge isn't hitting a big target once or twice. It's doing it over and over under pressure when it counts." He gestured toward a smaller target set at 75 yards. "Now that's what we call an intermediate challenge. Takes a steady hand and a good eye. Most of the regulars here can manage it on a good day. Kat's third shot found the center ring of her assigned target, drawing a small round of applause. It was solid shooting, exactly what any instructor would hope to see from a promising student. "Well, I'll be damned," Marcus said, lowering his phone. Girl's got potential. Travis kept his patronizing smile, but Kat caught a flicker of something else in his expression. He'd expected her to fail spectacularly, providing entertainment and reinforcing his position as the range's undisputed king. Instead, she'd performed competently, and that was somehow more threatening than complete failure. "Real nice shooting," Travis said, his tone still friendly but carrying an undertone Kat recognized from countless military briefings. "Of course, anybody can get lucky with 3 shots. The real test is consistency over time. That's the real test." Travis strode toward his equipment bag with the confident swagger of a man about to make a point. The group sensed something was about to happen. Conversations died down, and every eye fixed on their unofficial leader. "You know what?" Travis announced, pulling out a pair of high-end binoculars. "I'm feeling generous today. How about we give our new friend here a real challenge? Show her what this sport's really about." He pointed to the far end of the range, where a small steel target sat at the 100-yard line. Roughly the size of a dinner plate, it wasn't. Impossible for an expert marksman, but definitely not a shot any beginner would be asked to take. "That little steel plate out there," Travis continued, clearly enjoying himself. "I've been working on that shot for 6 months. Hit it maybe 3 times out of 10 on a good day. Wind's tricky at that distance, and you've got to account for bullet drop." Marcus let out a low whistle. "Travis, that's your money shot." "You sure you want to—" "Oh, I'm sure," Travis interrupted smoothly, never taking his eyes off Kat. "See, I believe in pushing people to their limits. How else are you going to know what you're made of?" The challenge hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Everyone understood the subtext. This was Travis reasserting his dominance, setting the newcomer up for failure with a task designed to humble her. Bill stepped forward, looking uneasy. "Travis, that's a pretty advanced shot for someone's first day." "Now don't you worry about her, Bill," Travis replied smoothly. "Lady says she can manage. Remember, I'm just giving her the chance to prove it." Kat studied the distant target through the range's spotting scope. The steel plate looked impossibly small at that distance, especially with the afternoon breeze picking up. She saw exactly what Travis was doing, setting her up for a public failure that would confirm all their assumptions. "What do you say?" Travis pressed, voice heavy with false encouragement. "Take a real challenge or stick with the beginner targets." The group watched expectantly. This was the moment they'd all been waiting for, the confident newcomer admitting her limits and accepting her place in their established order. Kat stepped back from the scope and looked Travis square in the eye. One shot," Travis confirmed, his grin widening. "But here's the thing. When you miss, and you will miss, I want you to understand this isn't personal. It's just reality. Some folks are built for this kind of precision and others—" He shrugged eloquently. Kat nodded thoughtfully, as if weighing the wisdom in his words. And when she hit it, the certainty in her voice caught Travis off guard. No one had expected that. The afternoon wind had picked up, making the flags at each distance marker dance and flutter. Any experienced marksman knew wind was the great equalizer. It could turn a perfect shot into an embarrassing miss, or make a marginal shooter look like a hero if they read it right. Travis stepped up to the line first, determined to demonstrate just how difficult the shot was before Kat's inevitable failure. He took his time, checking wind direction, adjusting his stance, running through his mental checklist with practiced precision. This was his element, the moment when all his equipment, training, and natural ability came together. "Watch and learn," he announced, settling into his shooting position. The shot rang out sharp and, clear through the spotting scope, everyone watched as the bullet struck, just shy of the steel plate, about 2 inches to the left, hitting the wooden frame that held it steady. "Damn wind," Travis muttered, though a smile tugged at his lips. He had just demonstrated exactly how tough that shot really was, setting the stage perfectly for Kat's expected failure. "See what I mean? That's why this is advanced marksmanship. Everything's got to be perfect. He stepped back, visibly satisfied. Your turn, sweetheart. Remember what I showed you about grip and breathing? Kat moved to the firing line without ceremony. She picked up the rental pistol, still the same basic range gun, nothing fancy or customized like Travis's gear. The crowd gathered behind, her phones raised, eager to capture the moment she'd reveal her limits. But something had changed in Kat. The hesitant newcomer was gone, replaced by someone moving with quiet, efficient purpose. She checked the pistol with motions too smooth, too automatic for someone supposedly learning the basics. Her eyes lingered on the wind flags, tracking subtle patterns most casual shooters would miss. Then she settled into a shooting stance, different from the textbook form Travis had shown, more compact, more stable. It looked worn smooth by thousands of repetitions under conditions these men couldn't imagine. Take your time, Travis called out, almost helpfully. No shame in missing. The shot rang out, interrupting him. The sound was different, sharper, more deliberate. The distant ping of steel echoed clearly across the range, followed by an immediate hush. Through the spotting scope, the steel target swung gently on its mounting chain, a bright, precise mark right in the center where the bullet had hit. Holy, Marcus breathed, then caught himself. Travis stood, frozen, his mind racing to process what had just happened. The shot he'd spent months chasing, the symbol of his superiority, had been pulled off flawlessly by a woman who'd supposedly never been here before. Lucky shot, someone whispered, but the words lacked conviction. Kat safetied the weapon and stepped back from the line, her expression unreadable. The transformation back to the quiet newcomer was so seamless it unsettled everyone watching. Well, she said simply, that was fun. Travis finally found his voice. That was... How did you... He stopped, regrouped, tried again. What kind of shooting do you do? Set, Kat replied, beginning to pack her gear with the same methodical efficiency she'd shown all day. Because that was just a hobby. Bill stepped forward, his weathered face creased in thought. Something about her movements, her bearing, sparked recognition. Ma'am, if you don't mind me asking, you got military experience? Kat paused, considering the question as she packed. Around her, the group fell completely silent. Everything they thought they knew about this day was suddenly thrown into question. Some, she said finally. The understatement hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. The silence stretched, heavy with the weight of what that single word implied. Bill's expression shifted, the earlier dismissiveness replaced by something close to respect. What branch? He asked quietly. Army, Kat answered, continuing to pack. Served 12 years before I decided it was time for civilian life. Travis's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, speechless. Travis looked like a fish out of water. 12 years of military service wasn't the mark of some weekend warrior or National Guard dropout. This was a career soldier who had chosen to walk away. What was your specialty? Bill asked, his tone now laced with careful respect. The quiet language veterans use to honor one another. Kat paused, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Started in military police but spent the last 6 years as a designated marksman. Did 3 tours overseas, Afghanistan twice, Iraq once. The words landed on the group like physical blows. A designated marksman wasn't just any soldier. They were elite shooters, trusted with impossible shots when lives hung in the balance. Marcus slowly lowered his phone, suddenly aware of how ridiculous his earlier comments sounded. Jesus, he whispered. We're talking about a real sniper here. Designated marksman, Kat corrected gently. Snipers are a different specialty entirely, though I did cross-train with some scout sniper units during my second deployment. Travis finally found his voice, though it came out as a croak. Why didn't you say anything? Kat shouldered her simple bag, leaving behind the rental equipment. Say what? I've spent years perfecting skills I hoped I'd never need again. I come here because punching holes in paper is a lot more peaceful than the alternative. She looked around the group, taking in their stunned faces. You all assumed I was just some suburban mom trying to learn self-defense. I let you assume that, Because sometimes it's nice to be underestimated instead of feared. Bill stepped forward, extending his hand. Ma'am, it's been an honor having you on our range. You're welcome back anytime. Cat shook his hand firmly. Thank you. It's a nice facility. She turned to Travis, who still looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Your form is excellent, by the way. That was a good shot you made. Wind's tricky at this distance. Travis nodded numbly, his entire worldview having shifted in just 5 minutes. And Travis, Kat added, her voice gentle but firm. Next time someone new shows up, maybe ask questions before making assumptions. You never know who might walk through that gate. With that, she headed toward the parking lot, leaving behind a group of men who would never again judge someone's story based on appearances. The gravel crunched under Kat's boots as she walked to her modest sedan, the sound clear in the sudden quiet that had settled over the range. Behind her, urgent whispers spread as the group processed what had just happened. Travis stood rooted to his spot, staring at the distant steel target still swaying gently from her perfect shot. His expensive gear suddenly felt less impressive, his years of weekend practice diminished by the effortless precision he'd just witnessed. 12 years military, Marcus muttered, shaking his head. Designated marksman. We just tried to school a designated marksman. Bill walked over to Travis, amusement and concern mixing on his face. Son, you might want to think about what just happened here. I don't understand, Travis whispered. She looks so ordinary, like any other suburban mom. That's exactly the point, Bill said, glancing toward the parking lot where Kat was unlocking her car. You see a woman in a hoodie and assume she doesn't belong, but that woman has probably seen more combat than all of us combined. Kat's car pulled out of the lot. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the range, a quiet reminder that appearances often hide the fiercest truths. Her taillights caught the sun, sending a brief flash of light across the range. She drove carefully, speed limit, signal on, and soon disappeared around the bend like any other Tuesday visitor. The group lingered in contemplative silence for several minutes. The dynamic that had defined this range for years, Travis as the undisputed expert, everyone else as aspiring students, had been shattered by a single flawless shot. You know what's really crazy? Marcus finally said. She wasn't even trying to show off. If she wanted to embarrass us, she could have done a lot worse. Travis began packing up his gear, his movements slow and mechanical. She let me go first, he muttered to himself. Watch me miss, then casually nail the shot I've been working on for months. Probably figured one demonstration was enough. Bill nodded thoughtfully. Folks like that, they're not interested in rubbing your nose in it. They just want to be left alone. As the group started to disperse, the conversations had changed. Gone was the boastful swagger and casual dismissal of anyone who didn't fit their assumptions. The lesson would stick with them long after the smell of gunpowder faded from their clothes. In an age ruled by first impressions and snap judgments, they'd just learned that the most dangerous assumption you can make is thinking you know someone's story based on what's on the surface. The quiet ones, the unassuming ones. Those who don't feel the need to prove themselves. Sometimes they're the ones with nothing left to prove. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the most unexpected teachers. Major Catherine Torres reminds us that true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It speaks through actions when actions matter most. Have you ever assumed something about someone, only to be completely wrong? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear about moments that changed your perspective. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories about ordinary people with extraordinary backgrounds, and let us know where you're watching from. Until next time, remember, the person sitting quietly in the corner might just be the most capable person in the room.